Hey, we're back, and great news for you. This is day 4 of how to make over $100,000 in the next 100 days. And you know what I'm going to say? If you're already on track to earn $100,000 at least in the next 100 days, adjust accordingly. And I have a feeling every single one of you need to be adjusting accordingly because, frankly, your average sale price is enough that you could sell 3 houses and make over $100,000. That's
They're
amazing.
very blessed by this fact.
They are. It is true. And you have a coaching client that sells in like the southern part of Illinois, you said?
Yes.
And their average sale price is 160 grand.
That's right.
Our average sale price, Jules, when we sold real estate in the early 90s was 160 grand.
Yeah.
And to have to sell, to make any real amount of money after paying all your normal expenses, and to be able to save and build net worth making that amount of money means you have to sell hundreds of homes per year.
It's a lot of houses.
Exactly. But some of these guys, their average commission check, the average commission check on the buyer side right now, dear listener, is $15,000. But I bet you some of you would laugh at making only $15,000 a transaction.
Yeah.
And that's with the slightly downward adjustment to buyer agent commissions as a result of these changes that are happening this month. You are incredibly blessed, and I hope you see your opportunities in real estate as such. And remember, this is day 4, so make sure you listen to the first 3 days. All right, now we're going to be summarizing, and these are all the lead sources we want you to consider. We're doing our best in the time that we have with you today to give you an overview of how you can work each of these lead sources, but it's certainly not a drilled down action plan. For that, you're going to want to join Premier Coaching. Just go to premiercoaching.com or just text the word Premier, Premier, to 47372. And what we're going to do to make it easy for you is we're going to give you the first 30 days of Premier Coaching for free. And then you're going to have immediate access to not only all the content that's in the first level that you get for free, but also daily semi-private coaching calls. So go to premiercoaching.com or text the word Premier to 47372. Julie Harris, point number 11.
Yes, so we have 2 more lead generators for you. Point number 11 is investors. Now, you can join your local investors club through meetup.com. You'll probably find several different ones there, or private Facebook groups in your town. You'll know who's looking for what property and which investors are likely to sell. This also gives you insider information about pocket listings, coming soon listings, things like this. Even flippers go there.
Julie,
that benefits your buyers as well.
All right, so we talked about this yesterday, but after we did yesterday's show, I started thinking about how Julie and I actually did this and how, frankly, we've helped some of our most successful coaching clients who wanted to work with investors. Investors might be like a small builder, even a large builder. It's going to be a mom and pop that wants to flip homes. It's going to be anybody who's basically an investor, right? So expand your thinking. It could be a wholesaler. So what Julie and I did is we called everyone, all of these, we got the list from the local builders who are members of the BIA directly from the BIA. You can join BIA. You can get the whole list of all, you probably need to go to their website and get all the builders' contacts information, tells you where the builders build, tells you the builders, the price ranges, the whole thing. You call the builders up, and then you offer to put them into this list. You say, I occasionally come across a property that might make for a great opportunity for you. It could be a flip. It could be a big parcel of land. And I was just wanting to know if you're interested in being part of my list. Maybe start a WhatsApp group. That's the easy button. Or maybe start a private Facebook group. Don't overthink this or make this overcomplicated or make this into a 14-stage funnel. Keep it simple. I would also suggest you could make it into a big SMS list, but the problem is it's very difficult to edit an SMS list once you have a list together. So maybe WhatsApp's the way to go. Oh, and by the way, WhatsApp makes it so you don't have to necessarily be too concerned about the rules as pertaining to texting. So there's that. Now, with that in mind, what you're going to do is you're going to put this list together, and then you're going to ask them, is it okay if I send a message to you when I have something that might be a good fit for you? They're obviously going to say yes. And then you ask them, would you mind keeping me in mind if you had anything that I might be able to help you with? A listing, for example, somebody that maybe you were talking with about purchasing their home wholesale and they just turned you down. So now you don't know what to do with it. Well, I'm your resource to get that property sold. I would certainly push the opportunity. So what you're doing is you're going to these folks that you may or may not have existing relationships with. You are offering them something. You're not asking them for something. You're offering to give them opportunities. And we're going to talk about where you can find these opportunities in a second. And then the rules for your list are going to be very simple. It's first come, first serve. So let's say you end up with a list of 30 different prospective, people that are not normal retail home buyers or sellers. When you find a new opportunity, you can send it to the list, first come, first serve. And then if you did it publicly where they're going to see the other people in a Facebook group or WhatsApp group, then they're going to see that, obviously they weren't first to show interest in it. That competitive nature of offering something to somebody. Now, would I put the exact address and whatnot in the Facebook group or in the WhatsApp group? I would not. What I would do is I would say, I've got something new. It's in, Colonial Hills subdivision. It's a home that the builder wants, or that the owner is out of state. They inherited the property. It needs probably $30,000 or $40,000 worth of work. It's worth in today's market, if it were completely fixed up, retail $400,000. They're willing to sell it for probably around $300,000. If this is of interest to you, let me know, and then you will start building relationships with these guys. Now, let's say you don't have anything that you can be sharing with them. That doesn't mean there are not little pockets of opportunity in your MLS. So mind your MLS. Mind the off markets, find other things that might be a good candidate for one of these investor sorts, and then expose them to that opportunity via the list. Build a reputation. Don't worry about, the building of the brand comes with a reputation. You can't have a stellar brand if you have a crappy reputation. Does that make sense? I mean, imagine, you having the reputation of being someone that actually is proactive with helping people buy or sell real estate. Now you're applying that same mindset to investors. Gold mine opportunity for all of you who are thinking out of the box and want to make the second half of this year your opportunity to build incredible momentum going to 2025.
Yes, 100%. Last but not least, in our lead generators, and we're going to do a little bit of a summary and motivation for you before we leave this podcast today. My number 12, door knocking. Now, this is not at the top of the list of lead generators because it generally takes more contacts to take a listing.
Let's explain why.
Well, but it is still effective when you're consistent. Door knocking can help you become more comfortable speaking with people about real estate, and many times you'll be at the right place at the right time and indeed take listings from being there. But before you go door knocking, choose your neighborhood wisely. Does it actually turn over very much? What's the average sale price? What's currently active, pending, and recently sold? What's being built around the corner? Is there new construction nearby? Become the go-to neighborhood specialist and use good scripts at the door, which of course you can get in Premier Coaching. Start with your own neighborhood since you already know it really well. But let's talk a little bit. And of course, we do have a multi-part door knocking podcast series that we could do a drill down in.
And it's also part of Premier Coaching.
Mm-hmm.
No, so I always love using the example of Lisa McKivergen.
Oh yeah, great example.
And did I tell you that her daughter messaged us?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the story. I love this story, guys. I mean, it's the
best door knocking story
ever. All right, so Lisa McKivergen in our, not our market, but an adjacent market, was a legend, and she was with Remax, and we were with Remax at the time. So she basically was this new agent in this market. She had been, she was in the market before Julie and I. So this was kind of the legend, right, of Lisa McKivergen and how she got started.
In Granville, Ohio.
Thank you. So she went and door knocked while pregnant to basically every homeowner, as the legend, as the story goes, in Granville. And so here is this, I'm sure, really nice, sparkly, ambitious, very gregarious, pregnant lady knocking on the door, and she was bringing with her a list of homes for sale, recent sales. What she was really trying to do is establish herself as being someone that was very proactive about generating business and how I get to know you, and I'm in the neighborhood too. If you need anything, let me know. Keep me in mind, sort of thing. Now, she didn't just do it once; she did it continuously. She then gathered people's information. She talked to them. She'd obviously then call them. She didn't just, basically, she wasn't one and done. She was looking to build relationships. And as a result, not only did she become the number one agent in Granville, Ohio, which is a gorgeous market, probably one of the best markets, certainly in Ohio.
It's where Denison University is. It's very
Right.
Norman Rockwell looking.
It's ridiculous, honestly.
It is very cool.
So not only did she become the number one agent in that marketplace, she became one of the top agents at Remax, nationally at the very least. Now that's a great story, but it even gets better. So I get a message, because we've told this story periodically, and we talk about the power of door knocking and being proactive, basically getting off your ass and never getting back on it. Okay, so I get a message from Lisa's daughter, who was the baby that she was pregnant with,
Right. Yeah.
and she's now taken over her mom's business. Her mom's still working at it, but her daughter's taken over it. And she was just so super sweet and nice, thanking us for showing respect, love, and honor to her mom's achievements in real estate. So Lisa and Lisa's daughter, sorry if I don't remember your name, we continue to show the love and respect that we always have, because you are an icon, Lisa, and always will be. And I hope that Lisa's experience in the story I just told you motivates a lot of you to get off your butts and start door knocking. Now, here's the thing with door knocking. Lisa was doing it the right way. Julie coached you right there to do it the right way. You're hoping that you're going to stumble across a real opportunity, but what you're really doing, you're building a real relationship. Oh, Tim, that's very inefficient. I'm just going to mail them something, or I'm just going to do a pay-per-click campaign. I'm just going to friend them up. I'm just going to blah 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 blah. You really think any of that crap's more effective than door knocking? You already know it's not. Now you're going to say, well, I can only have one relationship at a time. Whereas if I'm going to do a direct mail piece to a geographic farm of 1,000 homes, those are 1,000 people that are getting my mailer. True, but what do you think they're doing with that mailer? What do you, dear listener, do with the mailers you get? I'm guessing you're not pinning them up in the refrigerator and just having these heartfelt memories about the first time you met the mailer. Unlike had you gone to the door with something of value, congratulations. I don't know if you knew this, but this marketplace has gone up by 30% in the last 24 months. If you'd actually put in the real work, that's what endears people to you. That's what builds your brand. That's what builds your relationship. Even if those owners had previous relationships with with listing agents, with realtors, as they obviously did, or they wouldn't own homes, you don't think they're at least going to consider someone like Lisa or like you, because you're putting the real effort to celebrate real estate, to celebrate their success owning a home. You don't think that you have now carved out a permanent spot in their minds to consider if they ever are wanting to send a referral? Of course you have, but you have to keep building those relationships. Door knocking, phone calls, proactive lead generation. If you want to know what's high tech and what's the next wave of things that are going to be what everyone's talking about, it's AI for sure. It's a lot of digital marketing, but nothing compared to the skill set that you can develop through Premier Coaching. Text the word Premier to 47372 or to go to premiercoaching.com. Once you develop that skill set, you are going to become more dominant, faster, have the best reputation, aka brand that you can imagine, because nobody else does it. I mean, Lisa probably was competing against people door knocking, other people, agents that were doing direct mail. And you know what? Nobody door knocks anymore. Most everyone thinks the digital is going to win the day for them. How many people have you ever how many people have knocked on your door? Now, I know it doesn't work in all markets because some places you don't want to door knock. Some places you might get shot.
Texas.
We're talking about you.
Or knock and duck.
Knock and duck.
That's the nickname.
Yeah, or they might stick the dogs on you. Or it's going to be a building where it's a doorman building you can't get in. By the way, you can give the doorman, say for example, the candy, and guess what happens next? Those types of things. Think out of the box. Don't look for excuses not to do the real work of real estate. Try to rationalize and think through it, why it won't work for you. Go out and make it work for you. And then set aside the inner skeptic, which is keeping you not a listing agent.
Well, that's right. So, we always say adjust accordingly. So let's say that you're living in a mid-rise condo building in Las Vegas, and the HOA doesn't allow door knocking, and it's inconvenient, and it's locked, and there's, that sort of thing. And yet, every month or every 2 weeks or so, there's some kind of a mixer or a party by the pool or something like that, where you can do the equivalent of meeting a lot of those residents, especially if you live in one of those buildings. Go to those events. I was just talking to, for example, Federico Salvatore out in Los Angeles, and we're going to develop a buy or sell with me, adopt a pet for free campaign around his Frenchie, right? So he's going to meet like-minded people. He's going to talk about real estate. That's the buy or sell with me part. He's going to help a lot of Frenchies out. There are versions of this. It doesn't have to be, if you can't go to every single door in a very textbook manner, that you can't do this kind of lead generation. You have to adjust accordingly and find your way.
In Premier Coaching, we have a sample flyer. Julie and I developed this a long time ago. It's been evolved over the last, long time. And it's absolute 100% a seller magnet. You're knocking on the door. You're going to, you say you have buyers that are looking for the area, and here are your list of buyers. And do have a real list of buyers. Don't just make it up. Yep. Okay. And the buyers are not going to have you're going to give overview information. And I want you to imagine you can play with this however you want to, but an old fashioned, out west wanted sign. You guys, can you picture it?
A wanted font.
Exactly. The wanted font. Just Google it. You'll see what I'm talking about. It'll make the seller laugh, breaking the ice. And then you're going to have a list of maybe 5 or 6 buyers that you have that are in that marketplace. Buyer number 1, relocating from Los Angeles, family of, 5 with 2 dogs and 3 guinea pigs. Again, break the ice. They're looking up to this price point, flexible on closing, flexible on timing, would prefer a tennis court, whatever. You guys get it? Buyer number 2, buyer number 3, buyer number 4. You get that, you knock on the door. Your job is to not just give the flyer to the seller and walk away. Do not look for shortcuts. If you're someone looking for shortcuts, you're not going to succeed doing this or anything else. You got to do the real work. Your goal is to have a conversation. Have the flyer, let them, knock, open the door, have a conversation with them. Hi, I'm Tim Harris with eXp Realty. As you may know, we work with a lot of buyers in the area. We have a lot of buyers that are proactively looking for a home right now. I have a list of the folks I'm working with. Do you happen to know of anyone that's thinking about buying or selling that I should be helping in this market? And they're going to say yes or no, or maybe so. You're going to give them the flyer. They're going to look at it. They're going to have the door open while they're talking to you, while they're reading the flyer. And then they're going to say, oh, I see buyer number 3. So-and-so down the way is putting their house for market in the spring. Let me talk to them. Would it be easier for you if I just, if I talk to them directly? Would you prefer I go about that way? Well, let me call them first just to make sure it's okay. And then you follow up. That's how you're going to do it. And by the way, Mr. Seller, I really appreciate you helping me out. And seriously, it's a great, a great honor for you to help me select a new neighbor for your neighborhood. Let me thank you by doing a free comparative market analysis on your home. Frankly, it's one of my favorite things to do. I feel like Santa Claus, because when I do the CMA and I show folks how much equity they have in their homes, I mean, they practically want to get a tattoo of me on their arms. So can you let me thank you for helping me find a prospective buyer for your neighbor's house by allowing me to do a CMA, and I'll just mail it over to you afterwards. Now you're going to get their contact. Now you're going to get their email. You guys get it? Always bring something of service. You're going to have to earn the brand. You cannot buy the brand. People telling you that you can buy a brand are lying to you. You have to earn it through the service you provide to others.
That's right. So that's a version of what I would call upgraded door knocking, where you're not just doing random doors. You are bringing your list of buyers who are actively looking. There's still a lot of places where you can't find exactly what they're looking for. I think of people with special needs. Back in our neighborhood in Georgetown, one of our neighbors sold because they had a door knock plus a flyer, just as you described, where it was a veteran who was disabled who specifically wanted a wheelchair-friendly house.
I'm going to set you up for a story.
Sure.
So Julie and I are going on a walk. Duh, right? So we do. And because what we do when we're going on walks, you know what we do? We think about you guys. We think about podcast topics. Oftentimes we'll start working on the outlines. We'll save, we'll do audio files, recording as we talk, as we work through all of it. That's what we do.
Talk about coaching clients.
Exactly. All right. That's how boring we are. All right. So Julie and I are on this walk, and I literally remember where we were walking, and you had a panicked call from your coaching client in Austin who was a very high-end agent, and she was calling you saying that this new agent who just moved from California, some total carpetbagger, is somehow basically stealing all of her clients.
It was an outrage, exactly. And what was this new agent who had just gotten licensed in Texas, moved from California, doing? Door knocking expireds. This is another version of upgraded door knocking, not random doors. She was targeting those expireds, and this was right at the time when prices had started to really spike. This was like year 2 of COVID, where we had had a lot of appreciation. Keeping in mind, listeners, that a 3-year average, homes have gone up 48%. So in fact, this person who was willing to be proactive and door knock those expireds had a great message at the door. Do you know that we can probably not just get what you expired at, but in this case, it was like $2 or $3 million more than where it expired.
Yes. So she took a listing that your gal had previously let expired because the seller said,
right.
I'm going to hold it off on the market. I'm going to put it back on market in the spring. And so this gal door knocked. And by the way, she had a real buyer, and the listing was
It was like $11 million.
$11 million that Julie's coaching client, because she was not being proactive in the eyes of that seller. The seller said, well, this gal's at my door. She's got a buyer. I don't know who this gal is. Do you think that seller, when opening the door, do you think she was, drilling that agent? How many homes have you sold in my neighborhood?
No.
What's your list to sell price?
Let me go check your TikTok.
Because the agent said, I have a buyer that wants to purchase in the neighborhood, maybe your home. And wasn't she also knocking on cold doors too?
I believe so. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of lessons in that story. One of them is, how many of your own past clients and centers of influence even know what their home is worth? And how many I know that some of you listening have had some past expired, say 2, 3, 4 years ago, where you could call them today, you could relist it, you could not just get that price, you could probably get more for them. And how mad are you going to be when somebody else does that?
So I might be conflating stories in my mind, but wasn't there, with that same exact situation, the same door knocking gal got a $25 million sale?
I think that was a different story.
Okay,
Sometimes they collide.
But similar,
Yeah.
right?
Same
From door
idea.
knocking,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And so here we are in Austin, Texas.
Well, door knocking high end,
Well, exactly. Here we are in Austin, Texas, in one of the, what is this, Silicon Valley 2.0, basically. And everyone's tech-minded. everyone has wired in through some digital device, you guys would rationalize, well, everyone's in Austin. Everyone's going to be communicating digitally. I don't want to knock, blah, 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 blah. You're going to have this long litany of excuses why doing something that's quote unquote old school would never work. Old school works best in markets like that because nobody does it.
Exactly, by our example, So there you go. I know some of you are freaking out from that story right now.
Good.
Looking up your database. Okay, so now if you are freaking out because what we describe as more business than you've ever had, well, that's a good problem to have. Make sure you've got a transaction coordinator if that's necessary to help you, an organized schedule, and are involved, of course, in Premier Coaching so that you can get the help that you need. Make it so that this kind of business, this kind of volume, this kind of income is not unusual for you, that it becomes your new norm. Now, once you're getting the results from the resources that we've been talking about, we gave you 12 different proven, inexpensive or free lead generators. Once you're doing that, well, it's time to add the next one. You might have even dabbled in all 12, but not taken each to the next level. What would happen if you decided to take 8 to 10 listings over the next 100 days, no matter what, and simply do what we've laid out for you in this podcast series, and then lather, rinse, repeat? Now, remember, as we have drilled home throughout these 4 podcasts, for any of these methods to work, you do have to be systematic, disciplined, and consistent.
And so in other words, you cannot just be one and done.
Dabblers.
You cannot be dabblers. You cannot just knock on a door and expect that seller to, remember your name 5 minutes, let alone 5 years from now. You have to have the lifestyle of doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. I'm going to say it again. We've done mountains of podcasts on that. If you want ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, do what you don't want to do. Door knocking in Austin in the summer really sucks. Okay, that's the doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. Door knocking in Austin when it's really hot, you never want to do it at the highest level. In other words, don't just do the effort and not actually follow through on trying to be of service to that prospective seller, but also trying to generate future business for you. Oh, by the way, Mr. Seller, before I let you go, who do you know who's thinking about buying or selling real estate in this market that I should be helping? A simple question that works in all marketplaces and all price ranges, no matter what the interest rates are, no matter who the president is, no matter whether if aliens have truly visited us or not, it does not freaking matter. You are in real estate. You sell something that somebody will need their entire lives. Now, I have a bonus story for you.
Okay, lay it on me.
I just remembered this.
Which
I remember
one is it?
Julie and I, this is going to be totally off the normal pattern of conversation here. All right, so we're walking around in a graveyard in France. Okay, this is what, about
Not
a
so
month
long ago, about a month ago, yeah.
So the name of the graveyard was?
Montmartre, which I'm probably saying wrong, but that's a neighborhood in Paris.
So those of you who have been in Paris, you know that in Paris, this is a very, very famous graveyard, if you can imagine that. And I'm from Ohio. Being a Midwesterner, I mean, there's no such thing as famous graveyards, but this one is just that. Some of the world leaders and most important people in history going back like hundreds of years are buried there.
It's in all of the movies. This is where they have, the monuments on top of the graves.
And by the way, one of the most dominant graves in the whole Montmartre graveyard is actually from one of Julie's relatives, the Sacha Guitry. And those of you who know anything about French history will remember Sacha Guitry and his father, whose name was Lucien. Yeah. All right. So that aside, so we went there to see their graves. And then we were walking around with this tour guide, and she was telling us this story. And I'd never heard this before. I'm not making this up. Julie's going to correct me if I hit any of the details, if I get any of the details wrong. Are you ready? All right. So first of all, this is a real estate story, I promise. Okay.
One of the weirder ones, but yes.
But hilarious. I mean, not hilarious, but so
ironic and
ironic.
weird.
Yeah. Appropriate to today's show.
Yes.
Proving that you are in the right thing. You're selling the right thing in the right market. Okay. I stay with me, listener.
That's the moral. Okay. I see where you're going.
You see
That's
where
the
I'm
moral
going?
of the story.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The moral of the story is you always have an expense of housing, no matter whether you're alive or dead. And you could be super dead, and if you want to be in Montmartre, you are going to still have a housing expense. So you might remember the numbers and the dollar amounts, but here goes. In order for you to be considered to be buried in the Montmartre graveyard, now this is not a huge graveyard. It's landlocked. There's no spaces left. It costs $50,000. Am I remembering right?
Something like that, yeah.
It may have been euros.
Euros.
And then you are guaranteed to be, you can be buried there. They'll build, you can have a little monument, the whole thing.
There's they actually pre-qualify you. I think you have to at least be of Parisian descent recently.
No, you actually have to have died in Paris.
Paris, yes. Yeah. Lots of rules to this.
Well, lots of rules, right. Because again, this is a very prestigious place to be buried. So yeah, you're there. It costs you $50,000, and the $50,000. This is where I kind of sketch you with my memory. The $50,000 entitles you to be buried. Oh yes, you see it coming, don't you, listener? Entitles you to be buried for how many years?
I think it was 15 or something like that.
No,
10
it was
10 or
longer than that.
Was it longer?
I think it was like 30 or something. It was
Yeah.
maybe
but,
25.
But here's the caveat.
No,
not forever.
Don't jump on my Don't jump on my.
It's not forever.
Yeah. So you spend a certain amount of money to be buried in Munmark Graveyard.
Yeah.
And that money covers you for however long it was. We're not remembering whether it was 10 years, 25 years, 30 years. And if your relatives or if you don't have some kind of trust that's going to continue paying for you to be in your grave,
Your plot.
they dig you up
They'll move your butt.
and they move you to a mass grave. And then that is where all the people who stop paying their grave rental end up.
It's almost like a grave foreclosure in a way.
It's incredible. And now remember, this graveyard's been there for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And that goes to the proof. So if your relatives, like, let's just be honest, if you're buried for 50 years and then all of a sudden you're getting a message that, well, if you want your relative who you had no relationship with you have no, if you want them to stay in their grave, who you don't even know they're buried there, you're going to have to, throw in another 50 grand or whatever. There's got to be essentially a pretty consistent churn of people that are getting, what would be disinterred. I don't know.
It's kind of like the world's weirdest land lease.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And then they sell your previous grave spot to somebody else. Now, that is a creepy story. Frankly, we shouldn't have been laughing as she was telling us this creepy story because it's so unbelievably creepy. I mean, why couldn't they have just said, graveyard's full, nobody's coming in?
Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you have done that if you were owning of the graveyard? But I mean, there you go. So why did I tell you this story? I'm trying to remember. Okay. I'm telling you this story because the bottom line is you are selling something that people will always need. You're not selling real estate. Real estate is not voluntary. I mean, God bless homeless people. They're, obviously not in the market, but everybody else, you're either leasing or you're buying, or you're thinking about, spending, moving up, moving down. Everyone is always in the real estate business. Now, we've told that story without the graveyard portion for 3 decades. And now we have the graveyard portion, having been in Paris. And now we realize that really the paying for your I guess, final place to rest, or even where you're going to sleep tonight, you are always going to be spending money for your existence, especially if you're in Paris, for you to be someplace. You guys get it? So you happen to be selling something that people will always need no matter what. And hopefully you took my story in the right light. Hopefully.
Well, you're about it. I didn't.
Yeah, I'm sure. Unlike, say, for example, a new car, unlike a new pair of shoes, unlike the latest fashion trend, unlike the latest iPhone, unlike, a steak dinner, all those things are voluntary. If people aren't feeling excited, if they aren't feeling optimistic, they're not going to go buy a boat. Remember staycations? They're not going to go on an expensive trip to Paris. They're going to stay home. They're not going to spend their money. But while they're staying home on their staycation, not eating steak, not buying the new iPhone, not buying new clothes, they're still paying their mortgage payment or their rent. So whether you knew it or not, you happen to be in what is, in our opinion, aside from utilities, water, electric, right? You happen to be in the best business ever because you're selling something that people will always need. Go you!
Well done.
I mean, seriously, for you not to see that as the greatest opportunity that you could ever have, maybe you're just not even tuned in, honestly. You're just letting it get by you. You are in the right place at the right time, selling something that everyone will always need. Congratulations. Learn the skills necessary so that you can get what, essentially you can benefit from what is clearly going to be an ever-increasing, improving, dare I say, boomish market, which has started essentially now. Be in the right place at the right time. You've done that. Now have the right skills so you can earn the right to be of service to other people, and all the benefits will follow. Your homework for today's podcast is text the word Premier to 47372 or go to premiercoaching.com. God bless. Have a fantastic day.